Hello, I'm Lana Labonte, and I am here to support, uplift, inspire, and hopefully that empowers you to be the best version you are meant to be. And we are continuing on with the invitation by Oriah Mountain Dreamer. We are on the 4th chapter, The Sorrow. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals, or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it, or fade it, or fix it. Every life has pain and sorrow in it. It's part of being human. If when we meet there is pain in your life, tell me. I can listen. Tell it simply. If you don't want to tell me how you are, then don't. But don't tell me about your astrological chart or dysfunctional family. Don't shake your head and tell me that a lot of energy is moving, or put your hand to your breast with your eyes wide and murmur breathlessly about how a lot is coming through you. Tell me something real, in language rooted in the details of blood and bone, heart and mind. What is the taste, the look, the sound that comes when you touch the center of your sorrow? When I touch my sorrow, I hear from the inside the sound of hair being ripped from my scalp. I taste blood in my mouth as my lip splits against my teeth. I feel my muscles cramp tight as I curl up, hugging my knees to my chin, trying to be smaller so he will not find me beneath the desk in the dark corner of our tiny apartment. Later, he tries to convince me that all young marriages are like this behind closed doors, and my real sorrow is that for a brief time, I abandon myself and try to believe him. I ache for the young woman I was. I can touch this sorrow when I choose to. And I choose to when a young woman of 16 tells me in almost a whisper of the boyfriend who hits her across the face when she resists having sex without a condom. It lets me be fully with her, without judgment, when she tells me, "It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what he does to me. I love him." She expects a lecture and is surprised to see tears on my face. I tell her about the young woman I weep for, herself, myself. And together we remember that it does matter what he does to her. If we are strong enough to be weak enough, we are given a wound that never heals. It is the gift that keeps the heart open. We are afraid of pain, emotional and physical. And we want to believe that there is a way around experiencing our own sorrow, that we can avoid the pain and lose nothing of the fullness and joy of living. It's simply not true. But it's hard not to move away from the pain. When I hear the young woman tell her story of abuse, the bone in the center of my chest aches. When I hear a news broadcast about an underground nuclear test tearing apart and contaminating the earth from the inside, my knees buckle and I sit down suddenly, remembering what it sounded like years ago when the side of my face hit the floor. I know that the sound from inside my body as the bones cracked on the tiles and the sound from inside the earth when the blast went off are somehow the same. This knowledge makes it hard to breathe for a moment. But I do breathe, allowing the sorrows of the world to break my heart over and over, letting the joys make it whole again. Knowing how to do this, finding the courage to take another breath and not close my heart to myself or the world where there is pain, is what I seek to learn, how to love well. Sometimes, of course, loving well includes acting. We can stop nuclear testing. We can raise young men and women to feel it matters what happens to them. And we can provide safe places for those who are abused or frightened. But sometimes in the flurry of activity and doing what needs to be done, we forget that we cannot change the past. The wounds of the past, must be tended by more than the frantic activity of getting on with it. Recently, 2 young boys in the United States gunned down classmates at an elementary school. Less than 24 hours after the incident, leaders in the community were calling on residents to begin the healing process and move on with life. This is how afraid we are of the pain. Children had killed children. It was hard even to take in. The loss was hardly felt, the pain barely acknowledged, and these men and women wanted to move around the grief and sorrow directly to the healing. It won't work. There is no way out but through. A wound not fully felt consumes from the inside. We must run very hard if we want to stay one step ahead of this pain. Exhausted, we try to bury it with drugs, alcohol, overwork, television, physical activity. We are a very creative species. We can use just about anything to anesthetize ourselves. But in doing so, we also remove ourselves from feeling the joy. Life becomes less, and if we are even slightly numb, it is hard for us to find the wisdom we need in our lives and in our world. It is hard to be with another's pain if we cannot be with our own. Since I was a child, I have always felt a deep sense of responsibility to ease others' pain. But I have discovered that often, beneath this genuine and admirable desire lies an inability to be with my own sorrow. Several years ago, watching a close friend suffer when a brain aneurysm took away her life as she knew it, I wrote in my journal, "I won't ask for much. But if you would just let me save your life, perhaps it will not hurt so much to know I cannot save my own." Even as I wrote them, the words shocked me. In what way did I feel my life needed saving? I cannot save myself, nor those I love, from the sorrow that is a part of life. Knowing this, it is tempting to protect myself from pain by simply closing a little to life, especially in the areas where I have been hurt, in the areas that matter most. When my second marriage ended, I became meticulous in setting boundaries in my life, many of them valuable, but most inspired by fear of further pain. Oh, I know what you're thinking, but it's not that I have been violated so often. My boundaries skillfully intact. I now win all the border skirmishes I long to lose and remain unentered territory. How to keep the boundaries I need and still be fully with another, this is what I long to learn. So I teach what I need to learn. When I led a workshop, I asked participants at the beginning to be responsible for asking for what they need and to stay out of one another's circles, to simply be with one another. I warn them. Sometimes during a session, a man or a woman will become upset and begin to cry. If your first impulse is to move toward them, don't. Sit with what it is in you that finds it difficult to simply let them feel what they are feeling. What in you wants it to stop? Sit still and see if you can simply be with them in their pain and with yourself and your reactions without moving. If after sitting a while you want to offer something, physical contact, a tissue, a drink of water, ask before you move. Ask the person in distress if there is anything you can do. Ask them if they would like you to sit closer before you move. And if they say no, believe them, even if you think it is their inability to receive comfort that makes them reject your offer. If you try to step into their circle uninvited, I will stop you. In 14 years of facilitating groups, I have never had to intervene to stop someone from interfering with someone else's expression of sorrow. Most people are eager for clear boundaries. In fact, one of the reasons people are often uneasy about hearing of another's sorrow is that they feel the very act of listening will make them responsible for alleviating the pain. Deep inside, We know that there is often nothing we can do to ease another's pain, and we don't know how to live with this knowledge. We live in a culture that wants only the times of fullness, that often denies outright the fading times. We have forgotten that there can be no full moon without the existence of other times of the tiny sliver of light surrounded by darkness. The fullness of summer is held on the opposite side of the wheel by the time of the longest night. To be separated from these cycles of the world, from the births and deaths, is to be separated from life itself. But still, we work frantically, seeking the knowledge that will put humans outside this natural cycle of blossoming and decay. Like many others of my culture, I have put great faith in knowledge. Beneath all my fears for the future, I've wanted to believe that knowledge, the accumulation of information and understanding, would save us from destroying the planet or each other, from medical disaster and natural catastrophes, from the emptiness and grief that is often buried at the center of our busy lives. I've looked to scientific exploration, psychological analysis, and spiritual questing, and I have learned a great deal as I've reached for the hoped for salvation, informed by books, educated by schools, guided by gurus, and assisted by surfing the internet. It's all there at our fingertips. Subatomic particle behavior, brain synapse mysteries, astronomical phenomena, mantras and mudras and movements to cleanse and enlighten. The luminescence of knowledge floods our lives like spotlights in night stadiums, illuminating every corner, every blade of grass, and molecule of astroturf. It's not that all the learning is wasted. Like many others, I have over the years gained much insight. I understand my neuroses, my demons, my illnesses, my patterns in relationship. And for my diligent efforts, I have an arsenal of tested methods for increasing my health, vitality, and awareness. I am a good student. I am a tired woman. And all the while, deep inside, I know what I have always known, that the knowledge will never be enough. This is the secret we keep from ourselves. And the moment it is revealed, we become aware of a need for something else. For the wisdom to live with what we do not know, what we cannot control, what is painful, and still choose life. Wisdom is often born in the shadows, frequently more visible in the darkness than the light. The stadium lights of knowledge that seek to eliminate natural cycles of night and day, death and rebirth, sorrow and joy, do not cast shadows. They provide only the steady glare of illumination. We must move into the darker places if we are to find the wisdom we so desperately need. We rarely go there willingly, though every life contains its own cycle of grief and celebration. To meet wisdom in these dark places, we must be willing and able to hold all of what life gives us, to exclude nothing of ourselves or the world, to tell ourselves the truth. Wisdom will stretch us far beyond where we thought we could or wanted to go. She will show us what we cannot change or control, reveal what is hard to know about ourselves and the world, and tear at the illusions of what we think we know until we are surrounded by the vastness of the mystery. And all the while, wisdom asks us to choose life. She does not want us to just continue to hang on to survive. She asks us to experience life actively, fully, every day, to show up for all of it. Often we are afraid that if we touch our pain, we will drown in it. We fear once we've opened our hearts to wounded parts of ourselves or the world, we will be unable to function normally because we will be so overwhelmed with grief that all that is good in life will be inaccessible to us. These fears pull us away from the one thing that can unfold the meaning in our sorrow or simply make it bearable to live with it. Intimacy. Being fully with ourselves, another, and the world. I learned a lot about how to be with sorrow from my experience years ago with the physical pain of chronic fatigue syndrome. I would have days of laying in bed with a high fever, every muscle in my body feeling as if it were being torn from the bone. My joints ached and my head exploded with migraines accompanied by nausea and vomiting. Movement or distraction only made my condition worse. Painkillers did little to alleviate my discomfort. Some days it was all I could do to hang on, one breath at a time. On one of those days, I remember how I had gotten through labor during my son's births by following my breath in and out of my body. Lying there in bed, I set aside my thinking about the pain, my fear that this would go on forever, my worries about how I would care for my children when they came home, my anxiety about what would happen tomorrow. This mental anguish was simply one more way of trying to avoid feeling the pain. Gently pulling my mind from these thoughts, I focused on being present with the bodily sensations, with my breath. Slowly, I started to relax the places where I had been tensing my muscles in a futile attempt to move away from the pain inside my body. I focused one breath at a time. The pain continued, but miraculously, it became bearable. Lying there alone, simply being, gently stopping my mind from adding suffering to the pain, I suddenly heard the highest, clearest note of a song from a bird outside my window. It rippled through the center of my body like an electric current, leaving behind a tingling sensation. The brilliant green of the leaves of the maple tree outside caught my eye, and I breathed in the sweet scent of the breeze that rustled the curtains, billowing them inward like an inhalation aligned with my own breath. All of my senses were sharpened. It was one of the most exquisite moments of pleasure in my life. The pain was still there, but my attempt to be with it had opened my awareness to the breathtaking beauty of life held in the smallest things right in front of me. For probably the first time in years, I rested. It was the beginning of the slow and steady recovery of my health. I am not a purist. When I get a headache, I take a painkiller. But I also sit down and rest, instead of barreling on with my day as if the headache had not happened. And when I am in emotional pain, when I am sick with worry about my son as he struggles with school, or aching with loneliness or hurt when someone I love lies to me, I draw on what I learned about how to be with physical pain. I sit down and focus on my breath. I allow myself to feel the ache in my chest. I unclench my muscles of my arms and legs and imagine relaxing my heart and feeling fully what is there. I struggle not to get busy, not to clean the house or continue my work, not to immediately seek out solutions or solace. When the pain is large, when I feel I cannot expand enough to hold it, I send out the simple prayer, "Help me," and allow myself to relax into being held by something larger than myself. And sometimes I am held by the presence of a friend or a family member who has learned how to sit with pain, how to be with another. And it works. I find the intimacy with myself and the world for which my soul hungers, and in holding another or being held myself, I am able to retrieve the pieces of self I had left behind in my attempts to flee from pain. I find again the hopeful part of myself I divorced when my hopes were dashed. I find the woman who longs for a man, the woman I left behind when the loneliness seemed unbearable. I find again the part of myself that loves the earth as a sacred sister, the part I sometimes try to leave behind when I fear that the pain of watching her devastation at the hands of my people will be too much. When we learn to be with our pain, we retrieve the parts of ourselves we have attempted to leave behind, and we are able once again to love those parts of ourselves. We find our wholeness and leave behind the impossible ideal of perfection that keeps us from the wisdom we need to live fully and compassionately with our humanness and the world. See the importance of your breath and how your pain is your teacher. Pain has purpose, And when you numb the pain or you try to suppress it or run from it, you numb the joy. And that the more present you can be with the pain, the more gifts are presented and the message that's been hidden all along is there for you. Now for our meditation for self-blessing. I have written this meditation to be done alone. If you are doing it with a partner, simply take turns giving and receiving. You can change the words in whatever way helps you connect with that which is larger than yourself. Sit comfortably and take 3 breaths. Inhaling through your nose and exhaling out your mouth. On each exhalation, allow the weight in your body to drop down. And allow any tension or tiredness to flow effortlessly away. Spend a few moments simply following the movements of your breath in and out of your body. Watching your belly expand and contract, your chest rise and fall. If thoughts come, gently bring your attention back to the breath. Now, raise your hands, cupping them in front of your face, where you can feel your breath as you exhale into your palms. Send your attention down through your body to the earth beneath you. Send out a prayer to Grandmother Earth. Grandmother Earth, send to me your love for this one, your granddaughter, naming yourself. Fill my hands with your love and blessing for myself. Then imagine your breath coming up from the earth through your body to your heart on each inhalation. On each exhalation, breathe into your hands the love and the blessings of Mother Earth, transforming your hands into the old and loving hands of a grandmother. With each breath, imagine your hands becoming full with the great glowing ball of light. You may feel a tingling or a heat in your fingers. Continue until you feel you're holding all your hands will hold, feeling them not as your hands, but as the hands of Grandmother Earth. Now slowly, when you are ready, move your hands toward the top of your head. Let them gently touch your hair. Feel them as the hands of a grandmother who touches the head of the granddaughter she loves. Feel her love and blessing flow into you. Slowly move the hands down over your face, gently touching your eyes, lips, cheeks, being aware of how beautiful you are to this grandmother. Let her blessing flow into you, and move your hands down over your body. Move to the places you know need this blessing. Let your intuition guide you. Let the love and blessing held in your hands soften the places that are hard within you. Feel your heart relax and expand. Strengthened and held by the blessing of Grandmother Earth, welcome back into your heart those parts of yourself you have tried to leave behind. And offer thanks. See you in the next chapter.